Good afternoon, everyone. We are at 3 p.m. Eastern, so we are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jessica Dean. I work for AIM Transportation Solutions. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to give you a really quick introduction before we get started. So the driver shortage is making hiring and retaining drivers more challenging by the day. If you signed up for this webinar, you're likely experiencing its effects already. AIM employs hundreds of drivers. We bring on dozens of new drivers annually. And just like you, we fight the constant battle that goes in to finding and maintaining the scarce resource that is a dependable truck driver. I'm going to give you a little information about what it is we do. So this webinar is one in a monthly series of webinars that AIM hosts. The subject matter varies, but we consistently try and provide valuable information to our customers and to members of the transportation community, be it regulatory, pertaining to the Department of Transportation and its regulations, or industry-specific topics that are affecting our customers. The list goes on. Our company, AIM Transportation Solutions, is the parent company of AIM Leasing Company. AIM Leasing Company offers full-service leasing, commercial rentals, and maintenance programs. AIM Transportation Solutions is also the parent company of AIM Integrated Logistics, which offers brokerage and dedicated contract carriage. For those of you who aren't familiar with what dedicated contract carriage is, it's a service in which we not only provide a company with a vehicle, but we also provide them with a driver, which is an AIM employee. We do the dispatching, and we just take away all of the general headaches that go into the delivery function of a business. So then you're putting your time and your resources and your energy into where it belongs, which is growing important roles that you're staffing. You're not just killing yourself trying to get staff of drivers and putting all your attention into your deliveries. However, that's not why we're here today. We're here because AIM freely shares any information resources we have with our customers. Just like us, our customers need to hire and maintain drivers, and we know how. We have the experts. So today we have those experts who are Tom Rada, our Vice President of AIM Integrated, Eleanor Arnold, our Director of Recruiting, and Ron Bork, our Vice President of Safety. And they're all here to give you a peek behind the curtain that is AIM's recruiting and retention department. So we're going to show you what we do and how we do it. Couple of things to note. We are recording a session today. At the end of the session, Tom will wrap us up, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. Once we open it up for the questions, you can either unmute yourself and verbally ask the question, or you can type it into the chat function. I'll read it to the group, and then whoever can most appropriately answer will. Today's agenda, we're going to go over who AIM Transportation Solutions is, which I just did, market conditions, influencers, and outlook, the recruiting of professional drivers, the retaining of professional drivers. Then we'll go into our Q&A and have some closing remarks. So Tom, when you are ready, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Jess. And thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. It's a pleasure to get this opportunity to talk to so many folks in this industry that are fighting the fight for drivers. I apologize, I'm having difficulty advancing my screen here.
Bear with us just 1 second.
My apologies. I'll start by talking a little bit about AIM to further build on the conversation of who we are at AIM Integrated Logistics. And we are experts in hiring and retaining drivers. And we have established ourselves as an employer of choice for professional drivers. They recognize our family-owned and operated culture. That's a big driver. They recognize that they are something bigger than themselves. They're part of something bigger than themselves, not only the AIM organizations, but the clients we service. And we truly, as an organization, as do our customers, recognize the value they deliver day in and day out. Those folks delivering product see our customers more than anybody in that organization a lot of times. So it's important that we know that, we recognize that, and we treat them as such. So I'm having a problem advancing my screen, Jess. I don't, I'm going to stop sharing it for a minute and maybe just do the abbreviated view.
That works. Sometimes the over key if the space bar isn't working. I do apologize. We'll have this straighten out in 1 sec.
All right, so I want to start by talking a little bit about the market conditions that we're seeing in the transportation industry. February of 2020 was probably the best market we've seen as far as the alignment of supply and demand of capacity. It was then that the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that there was around 471,000 over-the-road drivers in the system, which really kind of balanced out the supply and demand with capacity as far as the balance goes. August of the same year, we all know what happened between February and August. That same sector reported around 30,000 fewer jobs, which was the lowest that we saw in that vertical since 2012. Additionally, this year alone, the 8 large publicly traded carriers, they've reported a decrease in about almost 4% in capacity year over year. Professional driver payroll has declined, not because drivers are earning less. It's more of a function of the number of drivers in the industry. This is the slide. I just realized my screen probably wasn't sharing correctly, Jess. Yeah, okay. My apologies again. I promise I know how to utilize technology better than this. I don't know why I'm having so many issues.
You're good now, Tom. We can see it.
Okay, great. I'll start from the top. The market conditions, as I mentioned, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they reported that in February of 2020, that was the highest we've seen as far as over-the-road drivers. The employment was all the way up to 471,000. Was a nice balance of supply and demand. Capacity was available, wasn't nearly as tight as it is today. Fast forward to August, we all know what happened between February and August of 2020. That sector lost around 30,000 drivers, which took us to a low point. It was the lowest we've seen since September of 2012. Coming into this year, 2021, the 8 large publicly traded truckload companies, they're reporting around a 4% decrease in capacity of empty seats. Professional driver payroll is down 3% year over year. Not because drivers are making less money, it's because there's fewer of them. In general, the overall labor participation rate is still down about 2% year over year. And the driver shortage is estimated as high as 80,000 where we sit today. Talking about market conditions and what has that done to rates? Probably everyone on this call has experienced some rate impact as far as what it costs to move a shipment today versus a year ago. If February was a equal supply and demand market, We were seeing rates on average between all three verticals, flatbed, reefer, and van. We were around $1.80 a mile, $1.79, $1.80 a mile. Today, we're averaging around $2.77. That's an increase of $1 per mile, which is huge. That's maybe even conservative. This was from DAT's report last week. So what were some of the major influencers in the driver market? Well, you rewind pre-pandemic, the FMCSA implemented the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. 87%, or roughly 46,000 drivers that were in that pool failed to comply. So before we knew what COVID was, we potentially lost close to 46,000 drivers. The other thing that's going on is the demographics of drivers. That it's a workforce that is aging. They're obviously not getting any younger. The stimulus packages push some of those folks to an early retirement. They may have hung on for another year or 5, who knows? But we've lost some drivers from that as well. Add in the fact that the CDL schools were closed for much of 2020. The Vehicle Training Association, Commercial Motor Vehicle Training Association, was already reported 40% fewer CDLs were issued in 2020 than in previous years. So we lost some folks through the clearinghouse. We lost some more folks because of stimulus packages and early retirements, and then we weren't growing any new drivers into the seats. Another thing that happened was we saw a large increase in local and parcel type jobs. That's driven from e-commerce. The Amazon drivers of the world, that's dipping into the professional driver CDL pool as well. Those jobs grew by 8% or more last year. This necessarily didn't, the next point that I'm going to talk about is new operating authority. That necessarily we didn't lose drivers, but we lost company drivers. Over the last 6 months, we've seen a shift in the rates, and they've been steadily increasing. And when rates increase, a lot of times we see company drivers want to get their own authority, start a trucking company, and go pursue that. So those requests for new operating authority has been 20% higher for the past 6 consecutive months, month over month. So we're seeing a lot of folks exit company jobs and go into that owner-operator world while the rates are high. And last but not least, services. A lot of things have been shut down or shuttered or half capacity. We're seeing the public and consumers spending their money more on goods than services. What do we see as far as the market outlook goes? I think fewer drivers and more stimulus funding will continue to shrink capacity. Regardless of what the economy does, freight is going to remain hot and active. Couple subpoints there, one of which I already mentioned is the booming e-commerce market. That's really going to drive that final mile delivery and tap into that CDL capacity as that industry grows. And then the other thing that happened in 2020 that's going to increase the need for capacity is supply chains are being reevaluated. I think we went from a just-in-time world to now we need to keep more inventory, more safety stock, more warehousing, potentially increase production in North America, nearshoring. That's going to increase traffic as well. Another call out, 2 call outs that will negatively affect the driver market is spending on infrastructure. That'll likely add to the driver shortage. A lot of the infrastructure projects and construction projects will tap into that driver pool and take some of that labor from us as shippers and carriers. And then last but not least, the minimum insurance requirements for a trucking company has been unchanged since the 1970s. So something's soon to give there, where they increase those minimum insurance requirements for carriers and shippers to have, which will obviously impact costs, probably shrink the number of carriers that are out there that operate with that minimum insurance. And ultimately, these things will drive spot rates even higher than what we're seeing today. So that's the outlook. What I'd like to do next is show an interview that Jessica did with a gentleman we recently hired, Reggie Curry, who Eleanor and her team were able to find and source, and let him talk to you about what it was that made him decide to go with AIM and what he looks for and how he feels about working with us.
When you were considering taking this position with AIM, what made you choose us versus a different company?
Well, the main thing I look at is I talk to the drivers to see if they like the environment they're in and if they like the company. And I talked to a whole bunch of drivers and they seem to have really good reviews on working at AIM. And, you know, AIM, they have really good communication with the managers and everything. And the account I'm on is a really, really good account. And I love it. It's probably the best trucking job I had so far.
That's awesome. So what specifically, other than the communication, is it, what are you looking for? Is it like hours, compensation? I'm sure all of that, but what's the things that are really like the hot button issues you're looking for?
I was looking more of like a home-work balance, you know, lifestyle balance where I get paid pretty good money while also not working as many hours, like 70 hours a week and stuff. And this pretty much seems to like fit everything, you know.
So what advice would you give to companies out there that are looking to attract and hire professional drivers? What do you think that a company can do to make itself more attractive for potential drivers?
I think just do right by the driver, you know, and then drivers will come. You know, that's pretty much it. I think so. You know, just have do right by the drivers, and then, you know, other drivers talk to other drivers, and, you know, that's how it goes, pretty much.
Is there anything at AIM that we could do better to make sure that, you know, we're keeping you happily employed at AIM, and just from a retention standpoint, is there anything we could improve?
No, so far it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. The communication between my regional director and my safety guy, it's been best I ever had. Like I said, best I ever had.
So I guess my takeaway, it seems like communication is the thing that you look for the most.
That's key. Yeah, that's the most important thing. Yep.
So just someone giving you an honest, this is what we're doing, and making sure that you're kept in the loop about your day-to-day as your day-to-day is happening.
Yeah, yep, pretty much. You know, because without communication, and as a driver, sometimes, like if you're trying to communicate with somebody because there's a problem and then they don't contact you back, or it's like hours later down the line, and then you get frustrated and stuff like that. So I kind of like the response of the communication, and if I had an issue, they resolve it like right away.
When you've been employed prior to AIM, it was that your biggest grievance was lack of communication with your prior employers? They weren't answering you quickly enough, weren't getting back to you?
Oh, yes. Yep. That is exactly it. Exactly it. Yep.
All right.
All right. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Eleanor Arnold, who is our director of talent management, and she actually hired Reggie. So.
Are you able to see my screen?
No, Eleanor, we're not. And then make sure you click that share sound button as well.
Like we're all having some difficulties today.
This isn't our finest tech day. We do apologize. We can see your screen, but it's your, I think, checklist. So if you just pick share and then just pick your PowerPoint.
All right, so let's see. Does that make it better?
Yep, good to go.
All right, perfect. Let me just escape to a full screen. Okay, that's not working.
Slideshow and then from beginning.
There we go. All right. So again, as they mentioned, both Jess and Tom mentioned, my name's Eleanor Arnold. I'm the Director of Talent Management with AIM, and my position at AIM is to manage a team of talent advisors, and they are responsible for bringing on drivers to our company. So without further ado, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing. So I like to look at this as we know drivers. I mean, each of our talent team members have over 10 years of experience recruiting drivers. So I have a very experienced team. I like to say there's over 75 years of combined recruiting experience between all of them. And they're not only responsible for finding drivers, sourcing drivers, they're also responsible for retention as well. So they are retention specialists. So a couple years ago, we put in play a new program where the recruiters stayed one of the points of contact for all new drivers for 90 days. And the idea behind that was the recruiters were the first person the driver talked to. So instead of handing them off at hire brand new people along, with the account manager and the dispatch and operations and safety, we decided to stay involved. And what we've seen is a very smooth transition. So my team stays involved. They're the first point of contact, and they stay involved for the 90 days. Because they support the driver with a transition to the account management team. They also are really good at directing the driver to the appropriate department for assistance. And driver response on this has been positive. Because we do so much with text, it seems like my team gets a lot of texts in the beginning, and then it kind of moves off to account management. So it's a smooth transition, and I think it really works well for us. So my talent team is not just responsible for hiring and retaining these drivers, but we look at one of the most important pieces, which I'll talk about in a minute, is referrals. And so what we need to do is we have to keep a robust pipeline of candidates. Now, those candidates come into us, those drivers come into us from multiple ways. They could come in from leads. They could see our website, they could see advertising out somewhere, but we may not have that specific position they're looking for. And we're honest with them. If it's not a perfect fit, we're not going to try to put a square peg into a round hole. We recognize that drivers are more specific now than ever with what they want in their next opportunity. So we want to be prepared to make that call. And what's interesting is Reggie, who you just saw, was one of those candidates. We've had Reggie in our pipeline probably close to a year now. There was a position he had applied for, we had just filled it, and he knew he wanted to work on a specific account with AIM. So what ended up happening is, from my standpoint, it was great because there were no advertising dollars spent. And one of my recruiters who has stayed in touch with Reggie for this year was able to call him up and say, we have that job, we're ready for you. So, and that position, which was interesting in itself, was he has a family and he wanted home time, as he mentioned. So we were able to put him in the position that he's been wanting. We basically knew who we were going to call. It's a database that we keep with every driver that comes into us for one reason or another. A lot of the drivers may not have the experience we're looking for, but we make sure that we keep them. If they're a Class A CDL driver, we want to know about them and what's happening with them. So we stay in close contact. I mean, the other thing that we do is we also we work really, really closely with the sales group. And so the reason behind that is the recruiters are trained on every account that Tom and his team bring in. We want to know ahead of time, do we have any drivers in our pipeline that would fit this new opportunity? Where are we going to have to go to find these drivers? What are we looking for exactly in the perfect AIM driver? So it allows sales and to have an overview of our pipeline prior to contract signing. We can go in knowing perfectly well what we have already and what we're going to have to look for. So I think when you look at the next number 5, we have what it says is 712 response time. This is a difficult one for us. I mean, 7 days a week for 12 hours a day, somebody is manning our leads that are coming in. And a lot of times it's myself and the recruiting manager because I don't want to burn out my team so much. But because these leads are critical to us based on advertising dollars spent, we want to respond within 5 minutes. Anything that comes in after 11 o'clock at night, we obviously don't respond. But up until that point, we do one of 2 things. If it's at a decent hour, we call them immediately. We got your response. We know you're interested. You're perfect for the job. Or we just dig in and talk to them. If it's too late, what we end up doing is just sending a quick text. We got your application. Your lead just came in. You're very important to us. We'll call you on the next business day. And then we set up a specific time, an actual interview time to talk with them. We've seen that we're able to actually get in front of people quicker. They're expecting our call. They know the number it's going to call from. And it's been really instrumental to success for us. I mean, I can't even tell you how well this is done. It just allows us to respond quickly and get the drivers. We move on to the next one. So people always ask me this, what's the number one way that you get drivers? And I can't say it enough, referrals, referrals, referrals. Now, I think, everyone's, on here that was expecting me to come on and tell you I know this magic trick, has to understand that referrals are a little bit different than AIM, how we handle it. So you can see we have a picture of someone with a lot of prizes down there. And the reason being is we do contests, quarterly contests. Our contests have been very, very interesting because they could be a vacation contest. We've done holiday contests. And when I say that, we get people really excited about the opportunity. Now that's all AIM employees are involved in the contest because we actually really believe and know that every single person who's an employee at AIM knows drivers. I mean, they're not exempt. And when we put on a contest, what happens is they're able to see that. I think the biggest thing is that they might know somebody. Oh, sorry about that. So I think when we do these contests, we get more responses. I'll give you an example. The vacation contest was awesome. We did that in I think it was 2019 because obviously last year we did it. And what we did is we offered a paid time off week to any employee. They would get put in for a drawing if they were able to submit over a referral for a driver that filled out an application. So that being said, it really made people start to think, who do I know that's a Class A CDL driver? And I'm happy to report that when we did those contests for for 2019, we actually got 60 viable referrals. Now, what's good about the referrals is it didn't cost us advertising dollars. Obviously, we gave a prize away. The vacation contest netted a Southwest gift card and a week paid time off that didn't go against vacation. But 60 referrals came in that we did not have in our system, and we hired 22. So I like to think of that as, a huge success. And we looked outside of our drivers, for these referrals. So when I talk about referral payouts for everyone, we constantly run a referral bonus plan, meaning anyone internal in our company can refer someone over. If they're hired, we have a significant payout for them. Once the driver is hired and they're on board for 3 months, we pay out this referral bonus in one lump sum. And I'll tell you, it really has made a difference for us. People are always thinking about who they know. And we know that the referred driver is usually a good driver because employees do not want to put their name on somebody that's not. So we also have something, referrals for non-employees. So this has come up many times before. We've talked to a candidate, a potential driver that says, listen, this isn't a fit for me right now, but I know someone. And a lot of times it's out of the goodness of their heart that they just want to do it. But we like to give incentive for this because it's really shown us that if we throw out a Visa gift card to them when they refer someone over who fills out an application, we have someone new in our system. We have a driver that we could potentially use for either the current position we have open or another. So I think, when I look at the most success we've had is definitely referrals. So if we look at what is next, let me enter here. We've got to go to the next page and it will not move. All right, there it is. Social media. So I think, everyone knows social media. People are on social media. It's not going anywhere. Whether you like it, whether you don't, we recognize that our drivers live on their phone, not behind the wheel, Ron. But our drivers are on the phone. They look for their new positions on their phone. Our candidates that we are talking to respond to us via phone, be it text, or they fill out their application on the phone. So they're looking for their next opportunity. They can find them through job postings or from their connections. But we know that social media is crucial for us as we move through the changes and the bigger needs that we have for hiring drivers. So when we advertise on social media, which we've been doing for a while now, it allows us to respond in real time. My team is getting these responses on their phones. It could appear that they are at their desk working away on this, where they might be in the grocery store or hair salon. But I think the biggest thing we want to do is make sure that we have access to candidates as quick as we can. So I believe these are the top two sources that we look for, that we look at for driver hiring. And we can go through some questions that anybody might have, moving forward. So that being said, I think we're going to share another video. Let me make sure here that I'm able to do that.
Hey, Eleanor, we're missing the sound on this. I have it queued up, so I'm just going to grab the screen share from you. And this is a video that we had a second interview with a driver, similar to the first, where it's just him expressing his opinion on why he chose AIM, why he continues to choose AIM, and what we're doing right and what we could do to improve ourselves as far as recruiting and retention. When you were considering taking that driving position with us, what made you choose AIM? What made AIM seem like a little bit of a better workplace than the other companies you might have been considering at that time?
Well, seeing the trucks everywhere, they're always clean, well kept. They just look very good as you saw them going down the road. I'd heard good things about the company and the fact that they were local to me.
Absolutely. So, what advice would you give to companies out there who are looking to attract and hire professional drivers such as yourself?
Be open and honest to the prospective employee. Tell them, the actual start time, tell them if they're going to be spending the night in the truck. Just be very honest when you're looking. People would rather have you up front, tell them exactly what you want instead of beating around the bush.
I think that's absolutely true, and of any position, but definitely of drivers when, it's affecting how much time you get at home with your family versus not. Definitely, a different animal. So, um, let's talk a little bit about retention. I'm sure that over the years you've had opportunities at other companies and you've had recruiters reach out to you for other positions. What has made you stay with AIM?
Well, they have quite a bit, I feel, perks like the driver points program. Ron's always trying to find ways to make it better so we can get more stuff. It's just the community that we've built at the Girard terminal also. Like I can walk in, the mechanics know who I am, they say hello. The other guys on my account, we're in constant contact all day long, sharing information. I talk to guys on other accounts, we talk about general stuff, but it's the camaraderie, the brotherhood kind of thing that we all feel united. That's one thing that really makes you, enjoy it.
Absolutely. So, is there any suggestions that you would give to AIM for improving our retention program with drivers?
It's hard to say because generally most of the people that I talk to are very happy and want to stay here. They're people that, they enjoy their home time. They enjoy the fact that, one phone call 24/7 and there's an actual human on the line. So any problem you potentially ever have, central ops is right there. Anytime I ever had a problem, night or day, no matter what state I was in, central ops was right there behind me. Like you would have thought they were in the truck with me helping solve problems. So like stuff like that is a big thing.
So just making sure that your dispatcher is supporting you, communicating with you.
Well, it's not even the dispatchers, the whole company. Anytime I have ever had an issue with anything, the whole company, realizes that the drivers are, a very important thing in a driving business. So they all have my back. So it's great that I feel that I get in the truck every day and I've got several thousand people standing behind me helping hold me up.
That's a really good answer. Is there anything else that you would want to share about your time at AIM that you feel has been something that stuck out as a positive thing?
It's hard to say, but I've learned so much through the years. It's like, you think once you hit a certain age, you're done learning stuff, but then you realize that there's so much more out there that everyone can teach you and you can still keep learning. And there's just so many moments that I couldn't pinpoint one specific one. But I mean, it's definitely pointed out to me that, there's so much to learn and knowledge.
Okay. I just wanted to pinpoint, we did a few different driver interviews. We highlighted the two that we thought were the most beneficial for recruiting and retention, but the general consensus with those driver interviews was just communication is the thing that they're looking for most. So now that we've heard directly from our drivers, we've heard from Tom on the market forecast, we've heard from Eleanor on how she's implementing recruiting. We're going to switch gears a little bit and pass it over to Ron Bork, who's our Vice President of Safety. And he's going to talk about how we really handle retention at AIM behind the scenes. So Ron, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Almost forgot to unmute. Hopefully we can pull this out without more technical difficulties. I think I am ready to go. All right, can you see my screen? Yeah, good.
Yep, looking good.
Okay, I just want to take one moment to get organized and I'll be ready to go. Okay, so what we're looking at here, and we're going to talk a little bit about retention. And what we're looking at here is a little formula that works for AIM, and that we're recommending that you implement some parts of to the extent that you can. Now, we understand that we've got, our business is built around, as Paul said it, we overcome challenges because it's what we do as a company that employs drivers, and you may not be. And you may not be able to do all of these things, but if you can grab some tidbits out of what we do, we think that you're going to be a little further ahead. But we've organized our retention policy and strategy into these four pieces: the infrastructure around our drivers to support them, the way that we recognize our drivers, some of the safety programs and training efforts that we make to improve our drivers. So we try to value those employees, and I think you heard it in their own ways from both Reggie and Paul today, in that Reggie said, do right by the drivers and drivers will come. We think that if we do right by the drivers, that they'll stay. And we heard Paul say, be open and honest with prospective employees. And we've taken that to be a core value. It's integrity. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that fits in as a safety program and as a retention tool. So some of the things that we have as a transportation company that help us to retain drivers are, number one, our recruiting department. The way that Eleanor's team brings in the driver, they know everything about the job, sometimes to a fault. They've asked very detailed questions. They know exactly what, and when I say they, I mean the candidate. The candidate knows exactly what job they're applying for. And when I say to a fault, we've given them so much detail that they sometimes mix it up. The candidate sometimes has taken the detail from our job and another job and gotten it mixed up. So we stay in touch with them. And that's a big part of that 90-day period that Eleanor talked about following the onboarding. So our recruiters are the first step in retaining our drivers. Then we heard Paul talk about our 24/7 support. He felt like Central Ops was in the truck with him. We have 2 call centers there to support our drivers. We've got a road rescue department. If you're already a leasing customer, you already know what that experience is like. We know what's going on with the truck sometimes before the driver does. We're sometimes contacting the driver to say, hey, you've got this engine light on, it means this, because we've got telematics in the truck that's telling us, because we're connected to the truck virtually. I'm not surprised to hear a driver say that it feels like we are in cab with them, because we can virtually see the dash to know what's going on. And then our dedicated central operations, that's our 24/7 dispatch here in Girard, Ohio, that is manned every day, every night, every morning and every afternoon. We're here to help and support those drivers. If they can't get a hold of their normal dispatcher that works, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and nobody in this business really works those hours, but because trucks are always moving. But our dedicated central ops is here 24/7 to make sure that our drivers are supported no matter what they need, whether it's fuel or help with anything, directions or a shipper appointment or whatever it may be. We're here to support them. And then our safety department, it's comprised of a group of seasoned veterans. It's a career path for many of our drivers. We'll talk about that a little later. But our safety department's here with expertise to make sure that the driver's supported and trained. And our compliance group, here to make sure that we're legal. We're talking hours of service and IFTA stickers and legalization issues that are all specific to operating a truck. So if you don't know how to plate a truck, you don't know how to properly permit a truck, and you don't know how to manage hours of service, that's what our compliance department does. We're also administering our pre-employment and random drug and alcohol testing program in compliance with DOT. There are certain DOT rules you have to be in compliance with, and that's a big one. We've also got a human resources team that's focused on making sure that they're servicing a driver demographic. It's a big deal when you talk about a wellness program that makes a driver get to a doctor's appointment at maybe a narrow window. We've set up, wellness cooperation with clinics and truck stops nationwide, so our guys can go to a clinic at a Pilot or a Love's and get a physical that's compliant for our wellness program. So many manufacturing companies can't get into the 90% range with their wellness programs, but we've got a highly distributed workforce, and we have a really good success rate getting our drivers in for their wellness physicals and saving money on their health insurance. And we heard one of our guys today talk about healthcare. It's a big reason for retention. They don't like going to their wellness physicals. Nobody does, but they sure like the discount they get on their healthcare coverage. The other thing is payroll. It's vital to getting a driver paid properly. It's vital to understanding the operation to getting them paid properly. And there's no faster way to lose a driver than to start paying him incorrectly. He's got hours and hours behind the wheel to think about how the company did him wrong. So we make every effort possible to make sure that we haven't done him wrong. Going back to what Reggie said, do right by the driver and drivers will come. We make sure that their paycheck is not messed up. And driver payroll can be complex when they're incentive based around activity, and you've got per mile, per stop, per case, et cetera. There's a lot of details to manage. And our crew in our payroll department is making sure that all of those I's are dotted and T's are crossed so we have a correct paycheck for our driver. In the area of recognition, over here on the left, you'll see just a sample of some of the things that we reward our drivers for. Some of the categories, they're happening daily with quizzes. They're happening annually with safe driving awards. We do quarterly safety bonuses. And the drivers, and Paul Ebert on our video, he mentioned, that he appreciated the points that we're always trying to give him. And we're always looking at new ways to reward our drivers. And we're doing that in order to, number one, give our best employees more perks and to try to improve guys that need help. So we're always crafting a new way to get those people their points. And it drives engagement, it drives retention, and the people that aren't participating in the point system, we know that they're not really committed to the company. So that's a big thing. And what they do with their points, after they accumulate, they can amass points. They can earn thousands and thousands of points a year. I don't have a good number for you, but I can tell you that in cash value, you're looking at about a $1,500 a year commitment from the company. They can use those points in an Amazon style store to buy anything from a coffee cup to a bass boat. These are these little pictures around the perimeter of this grid. Those are some of the things that they can use. They can buy a big screen TV. Electronics are always popular at Christmas time. Some of our drivers, they're doing all of their Christmas shopping on the points that they get from AIM. In the bottom right corner, you'll see the core values for safety: integrity, trust, accountability, and commitment. I think if you think about these four things and you think back to my favorite tagline from what Reggie said, do right by the driver and drivers will come. This says I'm going to do right by you because we're going to act with integrity. We're going to be held accountable. We're going to hold you accountable, and we're committed. We want you to be committed and trust. We think that culminates in doing right by the driver. We've got another thing in the area of recognition called the President's Core Value Award. We've given the President's Core Value Award to a few people. It included a bonus, a cash bonus, and it included apparel. So when those guys walk into the shop, it says on their shoulder, President's Core Value Award winner. When those drivers walk into an AIM shop, our people know what that means, and that means something that you're dealing with a driver that's very committed to quality, and he's got a high degree of integrity. And so we recognize those people for that. Room to grow. All of our regional safety managers have come from the ranks of driver within the company. One of our regional safety managers actually came through our student program. So he came to us with zero experience, fresh from trucks driver school. We put him through our student program. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But we put him through our student program. He worked as a driver operating a truck for a number of years with us, and now he's a regional safety manager. And most of our account managers, I can only honestly think of one exception, are all drivers and former drivers. Most all of our account managers or dispatch managers that are on site at our locations are CDL holders and former drivers. So it's a big retention tool to be able to offer a career path to those folks in the field that are working hard in the truck. This is a little bit about the student program. So this is an overview of some of the things that we train on. We've got a very robust program. We establish a 12-week mentorship with a student driving school graduate, a recent driving school graduate. And we assign them a mentor, and that is a relationship that we don't break for 12 weeks. We're happy to say that we're back at that post-COVID. We have one student, and we're looking to, reinflate the program, which is something we had to suspend during the coronavirus pandemic. But these are some of the things that we talk about. You don't need to read all these points, but there's a lot that goes into being a successful driver that they don't learn in driving school. They don't learn how to manage their life. They don't know where the best restaurant is. They don't know, necessarily how to do a blindside backing. They've got some limited experience, and they're under the expert tutelage of an experienced driver for 12 weeks to get that stuff down. They might not even know what time zones are. They're driving from Philadelphia to Chicago, and they might not realize that they're going to travel from Eastern to Central Time and how to plan their delivery properly. So on-time delivery could be an issue. They might be able to operate the truck between A and B, but can they successfully manage life to get there on time? Those are the things that they learn in our program. In addition to, Smith system and, the nuts and bolts of operating their equipment. So we find that in that program, they come out of our program, our finishing school, ready to work and ready to stay with the company because they appreciate everything that we've invested in them. This is an example of a scorecard that we've created. We manage all of our drivers with all of the available data. So this is an example of a scorecard. We're measuring things on here that are short and long-term in nature. Some of these things change weekly or monthly. Some of them stay with your profile as a driver for your whole career with AIM. And we'll go through the categories here, but we're ranking everyone in these kind of scorecards, and they're receiving safety bonuses in the form of AIM driver reward points from their rankings here. We're also creating and building on the camaraderie that Paul talked about by posting these scorecards publicly. So Paul and his contemporaries can, jockey for position and create a sense of competition amongst that group. So it actually makes it fun for our guys. So the categories that we've got here are speed. We're monitoring speed. We know if a guy speeds 2% of the time, 20% of the time. We've got standards and a whole coaching protocol to manage that. But we've got their final results posted in this card, and we've got an 8-week look back here in this scorecard. And then we take the speed and we rank them, from best to worst. And we do the same thing with a number of other categories. How many violations they've created in their ELD. That's a 6-month look back. So we've got a 1 month, we've got a 6 month, we've got CSA points. That's going to look back 2 years. So you've got 2 years worth of history in their CSA. We're always managing our CSA score, and we're looking for opportunities to do remedial training around all of these things. Hard braking events from their ELD, we know if they're slamming on their brakes repeatedly, or maybe they just got in a situation once where they slammed on the brakes. So the fewer times that happens, obviously the better the score. And then how many preventable accidents they've had over the course of their tenure. So you look at a gentleman like this, he's got 1 preventable damage event in 18 years of service. We've got so many drivers that are over 20 years of service with the company. Just on this little page, I see an 18, a 20, another 18, and you see that his preventables per year is very low, but that doesn't even make him number 1 in our system. So he's ranked at 95. So we've got this guy at number 1, he's got 0. He's been with us for 5 years. So we're looking at it at that level. We're calculating an average rank, and we're weighting that average, and there's some more things that go on behind the scenes, but we're getting to an overall rank. We use this for a number of things. Another thing that we use this for is our driver safety improvement workshop. This has been a very successful program. It's paid big dividends on the low end of our scorecard. So we're taking the guys that are scoring the worst. that have had a significant tenure with the company. So we know they've been here for a year, or they've been here for 2 years. We want to invest in that driver, and we want to limit the risk of something happening with that driver on the road. So we want to look to make them better, or we want to look to move them on. So there's good and bad turnover, but this is a move to retain those guys and make them what we need them to be. So based on the scorecard results, we're going to bring in 5 to 10 employees each quarter. We're going to focus that on different features on the quarterly meetings. So I misspoke here. We're going to do a monthly meeting like this, and then we have quarterly meetings that are specific. But we bring in the 5 to 10 guys. We do a full day of training and discussion. In the picture below is one of our safety managers doing a driver meeting. This isn't the setting in which we do our driver safety improvement workshop, but it's a similar event. It's a classroom exercise. We talk about certain things that are relevant to the data presented by the 5 to 10 employees that are involved in the meeting. At the conclusion of the meeting, they do a live Q&A with senior leadership from the company. And when I say senior leadership, I mean the ownership. The owner of the company, the president of the company, myself, vice president of safety, Tom Rada, who's vice president of integrated, and our COO, we are in a room and we do a Q&A with those employees to let them know how important their safety is to our company and how we need to see them improve. We ask them to make commitments, not only to us, but to themselves about what they're going to improve on. So those commitments are tracked and their progress is tracked following the meeting, and 100% of the time, we see a change from those employees. And then we're heavily involved in technology. So we're doing in-cab video. We're using Bendix collision mitigation. That'll actually stop the truck if there's an obstacle in front of them. It'll take 50 miles an hour out of a collision. If the driver did nothing, it'll also alert them to issues. These systems are very helpful to the driver. If you want to retain a good driver, prove that he's a good driver by putting a video camera that points out in his windshield, and that will prove when there's an issue that it wasn't his fault. So that's a driver you could potentially lose if somebody hits him and the story doesn't go well on roadside. So you want to retain that driver, put a video camera in his windshield. Don't point it at him. They don't like that as well. Safety meetings. We're always looking to improve our drivers. Again, we want to embrace the individuality, but we also need certain work to be done and certain procedures to be followed. We accomplish that with various forms of training, safety meetings, in-cab ride-alongs, and discrete observations. I'm going to talk again here in a minute about number 3, which is video training. This is our video training portal. It's called ACE, AIM Continuing Education. We log in here. Our drivers get 4 types of training assignments. They get their first look at the system is at orientation, where they log in here and they complete some videos to indoctrinate them in some of our policies. We've got customized content that we've uploaded to this site, and it tracks their performance. The Student Driver Training Program, SDTP, that student driver program is comprised of 10 modules through the 12 weeks, and each module carries with it some specific content that they watch on this platform. And number 3, the monthly assignments. Every driver has a chance to earn points in his AIM Driver Rewards for watching a few safety videos and a few improvement videos. And some of them are a little more fun and some of them are a little more serious. But they all have a quiz afterwards that, conveying their understanding of the material. And once they conclude that, they get their points. And then we do remedial training on this platform where if they've got an incident that they, bumped into a yellow pole and there was a little paint transfer, no harm, no foul, we might ask them to watch a video about how to back up safely, or to reinforce 3 points of contact, or to reinforce some, basics of transportation and basics of being a truck driver. And that's our look at retention. I hope that some of those things are things that you can put into your own operations. If not, we're always here to help. And with that, I think I hand it off back to Tom. Tom, you're on mute.
Thanks, Ron.
No problem.
So we covered a lot of information today, and I think the very first thing we're going to talk about is how do we combat the shortage? How do we get better as shippers and carriers out there? Because ultimately, whoever has the best drivers is going to win. And as I mentioned earlier, those drivers are a representation of your organization, and they often see your customers more than anyone else. So having safe, on-time folks delivering your product damage-free is really a market differentiator. And I think through the 2 driver videos, one thing that we learned in talking with Ron and what is in Eleanor and what we're successful at is treating drivers with respect, communicating with them, recognizing their accomplishments, and being transparent with them on the expectations from the minute the interview happens through their retirement, right? Working with them to make them the best version of themselves that we possibly can, and communicating early and often with them is huge. Some of the other things that you could do and should look at is updating your business model. Does it make sense for you as a shipper to continue employing drivers? Does the risk outweigh the reward? Does looking for a dedicated contract carriage solution or a DQ service offering make sense? That's something that AIM could work with you on and talk to you about. It allows you to focus on your core competency, whatever that is. We know that drivers, like every other worker, want predictable pay, predictable work, and home time. They're mothers, fathers, brothers, cousins, just like the rest of us are. And I think you heard in the one video, Reggie said, they don't expect me to work 70 hours. Well, just because drivers can work 70 hours doesn't mean that they should, right? I don't know that anyone wants to do that every week, week in and week out. So you really need to think and be different. What could you do differently to remain efficient in your operations, but be better? Is it reducing the number of days the drivers work, perhaps? Is it potentially looking at doing domiciles or hub and spoke type models to get drivers home more, so they're not out for 3, 4, 5 nights a week delivering? All those things. What can you do to be different, to create a better mousetrap without losing efficiencies? And that's something that we're very good at as well, is engineering solutions that are specific to a customer's need, that can be maintained, right? They're mousetraps that are built to last. Calling all the shippers and receivers out there, if there's anyone on the call, we need your help. You know, the biggest thing you could do for us as carriers, keep the drivers moving and give them the options for comfort, right? If they have to be there and waiting on loads, do they have access to a restroom? Do they have access to soda machines, a place to sit down maybe? Is there parking available for them to take a break outside? Simple things, comfort items that we kind of take for granted. But and then last but not least is really just staying focused. It's going to get more difficult for the industry to hire and retain drivers. We've got to stay diligent with it. As Eleanor talked about, we are very good at always building our pipelines, keeping our pipelines full. Reggie said drivers share good news with other drivers, right? So you build a brand, you become that employer of choice. It's very powerful because word of mouth is very impactful. That said, if you are interested in updating your business model, we would definitely be interested in talking to you about that. We have a test drive campaign that was launched and has been very successful for us with learning and getting to know shippers. We understand that a dedicated contract carriage solution could be a bit of a scary and large undertaking for shippers if they've not outsourced. That's why we give you an opportunity to try it out. We can't be everything for everyone. Do our best to accommodate those requests and manage them and time them out. But it really gives you an opportunity to see what it looks like to be an AIM customer in a dedicated solution for a trial period. That's all I had, Jess. I'll turn it over to you for some questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. The floor is now open for questions. So if you want to ask one, please feel free to unmute yourself or to type it into the chat. And we'll keep it brief here and respectful of your time. But any questions? Okay, I just had one pop up on the chat. A student program was mentioned during the presentation. Can you provide an estimate on how much time is invested in training? That would be Ron.
Am I muted? So it is a 12-week program, and the driver gets 160 hours or more of behind the wheel supervised operation of the vehicle. So we make sure that he gets at least 160 hours of actual drive, but it is a 12-week program in length. And we have seen students test out early. We've seen students go a few more weeks, but that's the length of time they're in it. I hope that answers the
Ron,
question.
I think it does. What is the retention rate like on that program?
So typically we remove about 10% of the candidates from the program because they don't meet milestones. You know, we've got some checkpoints along the way. We're always reviewing their performance as we go. So about 10% just don't make it through the end. But then once they make it through the end, the resulting graduates, they stay a long time, I'll say. At the 2-year mark, we hit about 78% at my last study. So about 78% of the graduates stayed for 2 years or are still employed. So turnover isn't really a good number there, but you know, hard to say how long they will stay with us because they're still here. We've been operating the program for about 7 years, and I don't know what the total average tenure is, but I know that we get close to 80% for 2 years or more.
I definitely don't think you can be mad at that. So
No.
Next question I have in the queue is, where do you find your best drivers coming from? What source produces the best results?
You know, I mentioned that earlier, referrals. I don't think you can do any better, any company. I think the key is, though, to know what you're asking for. I mean, when you say, do you know a Class A CDL driver, I think a lot of times if you're not a driver or a mechanic, it makes it a little bit difficult to know what you're looking for. We definitely let our employees know of our open positions based on areas, because just because someone lives somewhere doesn't mean they don't know a driver somewhere else. So yeah, without a doubt, our referred drivers stay the longest.
Perfect. Tom, do you see this question from M. Hughes on the chat?
I did.
There's two there, I think.
I see one. I'll read it out loud. Can we hire / lease a driver from you to drive our truck on an as-needed basis? Potentially. I guess I would probably like to have some additional conversation on that, on what the frequency is and what the market is. If dedicated contract carriage didn't work, we do have a full-service brokerage operation as well, where it's more transactional. But I'm confident we can come up to some kind of support for you, M. Hughes.
Very good. So next question was, do you pay the driver trainer any special pay for the 12-week training period while they are with the new driver?
There's two payroll considerations in the program. Number one is the trainee is put on a salary, and it's not a huge number. It's like $700 a week. I don't remember the exact. And then there's a little bonus for the trainer. They've got some extra work to do. We collect a lot of reports from the trainer. So there's a, like a, like a report card that they need to complete every week. And for that, we give that trainer $40, I think, a day. It's about $200 a week, $40 a day of additional compensation throughout the 12-week period for performing the training and, obviously welcoming that other person into their truck. Sometimes they don't want that. So we try to be respectful of that.
Got it.
And obviously,
Next question that popped up.
The training, one other thing, Jess, about the program, we go through a 2-day training with the trainer before they're even eligible to train. So they have to become, quote unquote, certified with us before we allow them to be the trainer. So not only do they need some experience, they need to go through that training course, and then they're eligible to get the $40 a day with the trainee if they want to take that training.
Got it. Okay, thank you, Ron. And the next question, this might clear up for MU's question as well. I'm interested in having a consultation to learn more about test drive and driver qualification offerings, ? Tomorrow morning, I will send out a link to the recording of this video, PDFs of the PowerPoints and some other resources. That's going to include my contact information, Tom's contact information. You guys can reach out to either of us and we can set up some chat with you about the test drive program. It'll also have Ron's. He's a fantastic safety resource. If you're one of our leasing customers already, you've probably talked to him at some point. And then also Eleanor's contact information if you had any questions for her. So, and we can, definitely help you with any areas you have as far as setting up a chat about test drive. Next question, kind of a side note, what company, if it is outsourced, do you use to manage the points award program for your drivers? Ron, is that in-house?
It is not. We do use a vendor, and I believe it's Stay Metrics.
Stay Metrics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, one more question. We are struggling for drivers, but as a company, we worry about losing control if we outsource our deliveries to carriers. How is that different from AIM? Is that Tom?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that one. Well, it's a lot different because our dedicated contract solutions, we act as an extension of your business. So we are essentially your private fleet operating on your behalf. So those drivers that we would hire would either be existing drivers that we would look to transition to AIM, and we would hire additional drivers specific to your individual needs that would work directly for the customer to supply the service that you're buying. So it's not like a lot of carriers will send different drivers in week in, week out, or day in, day out. With us, the solution is specific to the need. It's all inclusive. The folks delivering your product today are the folks delivering it tomorrow and 3 weeks from now, so on and so forth. So it really gives a sense of, you get a consistency through the driver. You're able to maintain control and eliminate risk as well. So.
Very good. I hope that answered that question. That was the last question I had. I would just like to thank everybody for your time today. Specifically, thank you to Tom, Ron, and Eleanor for your presentations. They were really well done. In closing, I just want to say the driver shortage is unfortunately not going away, and we're here to provide you with as much information as we can. And we hope that you had some really good takeaways today and got some defense tactics for the driver shortage. But there's no time like the present to consider an option like AIM Integrated Logistics. Our test drive program, you have the opportunity to see what this is like without committing to it long-term. So really nothing to lose. And we highly encourage it, because let your drivers be our problem, not your problem. Thank you so much for your time. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll send you a recap tomorrow morning. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, everyone.